There are 3 dark personality types, and most men are completely blind to which one is ruling them. This ignorance isn't harmless. It's why they're manipulated, discarded, forgotten. But the few who can look in the mirror and see the darkness for what it is, they win. Because power belongs to those who stop pretending they're good and start mastering the shadow that actually drives them. If you don't know which one governs your instincts, your emotions, your ambition, then it's already deciding your fate every day you wake up. And the most tragic part, most men think they're strong, but they're just emotionally addicted to admiration, to control, or to the thrill of doing harm. That is the curse of the first type, the malignant narcissist. The malignant narcissist doesn't love himself. He needs to be fed. He needs to be seen, applauded, feared, obeyed. He walks into a room and immediately begins calculating not truth, not opportunity, but attention. Who is looking? Who is loyal? Who praised him? Who dared to be indifferent? In this desperate theater of validation, he becomes a slave to perception. He thinks it's strength. He calls it confidence. He convinces you he's self-assured. But underneath the polish is rot. Thin pride stretched over bottomless insecurity. He is forever on stage because the moment the lights go off, the panic begins. He builds a life around constant supply and never feels supplied enough. Under the performance is a wounded king with a cardboard crown. One insult and he erupts. One boundary and he breaks. The malignant narcissist is not strong. He is starving, and the more he feeds on praise and fear, the more he needs it to survive. You'll see him in every room. Loud, curated, rehearsed. He smiles wide while scanning for disrespect. Praise him and he shines. Ignore him and he withers. Challenge him and he rages or collapses. You've just witnessed the mask slip. He doesn't have defenses, he has illusions. And when those illusions crack, he collapses into one of 2 extremes: vindictive rage or hollow despair. Neither are controlled. Neither are rational. He is an empire built on mirrors and smoke, and the moment the reflection no longer flatters him, he burns the whole room down trying to get it back. This is why so many fail in silence. Not from lack of skill, but from egos too fragile to withstand reality. One bruise and they disappear. One honest critique and they retreat into fantasy. They were never warriors. They were children trapped in adult bodies craving worship over conquest. Yet make no mistake, a malignant narcissist can still rise, often faster than anyone, because he understands spectacle. While others plan, he seduces. While others hesitate, he performs. He becomes whatever the crowd wants, a mirror of their hunger. In politics, in entertainment, in leadership, this type often rises because he must. The addiction to being seen compels relentless movement and relentless noise. But the paradox is cruel. What lifts him is what destroys him. The moment the applause fades, he self-destructs. Think of icons who unraveled the second the spotlight dimmed. Leaders who crumbled under criticism. Creators who vanished without the roar of praise. It wasn't failure that broke them. It was withdrawal. They couldn't tolerate being ordinary for even a day. So they manipulate, guilt trip, and lie to keep center stage. They rewrite history, demonize dissent, smear anyone who stops feeding them attention. He will shame you, charm you, or destroy you. If he can't be worshipped as the hero, he'll play the martyr. And if that fails, he'll embrace the villain. Not out of strategy, but desperation. This is not power. This is dependency, disguised as dominance. See it once, and you will notice it everywhere. The loudest in the room, the most polished, the ones who always need to be special. They are not free. They are dying for applause. And here is the final cruelty. Most ruled by this type never realize it until the cost is irreversible. They think they're chasing greatness when really they're chasing compliments. They think they're leaders when really they're addicts for praise. And while they're building a false self for the world to admire, their real self decays unnoticed, unloved, and eventually forgotten, because they spent their entire life trying to be someone else's ideal. Not once did they ask, "Who am I when no one is watching?" That question haunts them because the answer is terrifying. The malignant narcissist doesn't want power. He wants to look powerful, and the mirror he chases becomes his cage. But some of them evolve. They learn that attention alone isn't enough. They stop merely begging for validation and start engineering it. They study your mind, your memory, your doubts. They learn to make you question what you saw, what you felt, what you know. The performance becomes a program. The smile becomes a script. The spotlight becomes a scalpel. The second shadow is born, the gaslighter. The gaslighter is not chasing adoration. He is manufacturing reality. He doesn't just seek control over your attention. He seeks control over your truth. Where the malignant narcissist needs you to clap, the gaslighter needs you to doubt yourself. He understands this cold law. If he can control your perception, he can control your choices without ever raising his voice. So he rewrites events in front of you and calls it honesty. He flips blame and calls it balance. He denies facts and calls it nuance. He keeps the tone reasonable so you doubt your own temperature. He will confess, but only to the sins that win him sympathy. He will cry, but only when tears purchase compliance. He will apologize, but only in ways that make you feel guilty for asking him to. He gives you just enough truth to seem authentic, just enough vulnerability to seem safe, just enough charm to seem irrefutable. You lower your guard, and then slowly your sense of reality begins to bend. You feel inferior but can't explain why. You question yourself more even for asking basic questions. You become addicted to his approval and terrified of his silence. The gaslighter's favorite tools are fog and friction. He introduces doubt into every clear memory until your own mind becomes a courtroom where you're always on trial. He plants alternative narratives that are almost true, just close enough to confuse, just wrong enough to control. He isolates you from anchors, friends, journals, evidence. He says they're biased, dramatic, disloyal. He keeps you exhausted with small contradictions so you stop confronting the big ones. And when you finally gather proof, he questions your motive for gathering it. You cannot argue with him. He rehearsed the script before you entered the room. You cannot accuse him. He'll turn it into an indictment of your tone, your timing, your trauma. You cannot shame him. He wears blame like armor and hands it back polished with your fingerprints on it. If you try to leave, he becomes everything you once loved again, just long enough to pull you back into orbit. He does not want you. He wants your certainty under his command. He does not love you. He loves the leverage you give him when you doubt yourself. This is how careers stall, movements fracture, families wilt, one invisible distortion at a time. The gaslighter does not break you openly. He erodes you quietly. And the truly dangerous ones are patient. They set frames months in advance, plant doubts in private, then unveil proof when you're most tired. They keep their hands clean by making you blame yourself. And in public they are precise, soft voice, careful words, reasonable masks. People call them balanced, fair, even wise. They are not. They are technicians of doubt. Yet even this type pays a price. To bend another's reality, he must detach from his own. He stops asking what is true and asks only what works. He becomes a technician of narratives, clean, efficient, heartless. If he plays long enough, he forgets why he needed control in the first place. Connection becomes a liability. Authenticity becomes a risk. He starts caring more about winning accounts than telling the truth, more about managing partners than loving them. He trusts no one. He trusts only the cast he has written for each person in his life. And when fatigue finally eats through calculation, the gaslighter often mutates again. Coldness curdles into cruelty, precision erodes into punishment. He stops engineering your reality and starts enjoying your suffering. He no longer lies to control. He harms to feel alive. The third shadow emerges, the sadist. The sadist is not interested in your admiration or your agreement. He is interested in your pain. Not always blood, not always bruises, humiliation, isolation, helplessness will do. He isn't weighed by guilt. And empathy is a language he speaks only to counterfeit. He's calm while others panic, watchful while others plead. He doesn't shout, he doesn't need to. He prefers the quiet method, a rule changed at the last second, a laughing dismissal of your boundaries, a punishment disguised as a joke. He cuts where no one will see and smiles when you try to explain. You won't always recognize him. He often looks disciplined, even serene. But watch the eyes when someone else stumbles. There's a spark, the delight of a predator witnessing a fracture. While the malignant narcissist freezes without applause and the gaslighter waits for the perfect frame, the sadist creates the moment. He breaks rules first and calls it necessity. He pushes limits and calls you weak for having them. He exploits restraint as a weapon because your conscience keeps you slow and his keeps him free. Do not mistake him for reckless. Many sadists are meticulous. They learn what you expect a good person to do and then do the opposite in ways that make you doubt your expectations. They will say the right words, wear the right face, even apologize if it buys proximity to more suffering. Inside, nothing moves. Nothing sticks. Feeling is vulnerability, and he discarded that leash long ago. Maybe through trauma, maybe through choice. It doesn't matter. What matters is the absence. No shame, no remorse, an emptiness that acts like armor. This is why the sadist rises when systems fall, when the old rules no longer protect the weak, when institutions crack, when fear fogs the air. He advances. Others negotiate. He takes. Others hesitate. He strikes. And even those who see him clearly often still follow, not out of love, but out of awe. People admire what they fear and fear what they cannot predict. That is his advantage. You never know if he'll spare you or smile as he ends you socially, financially, spiritually. He doesn't need to scream. He only needs to decide. But there is a cost he never admits. The sadist wins control and loses humanity. He may build an empire and sit on the throne in silence because no one trusts him, no one loves him, and no one stays. He is a storm that passes through, leaves wreckage, then moves on untouched. His name may echo in stories. No one grieves when he is gone. And the truth, he doesn't care. That is the tragedy. He does not believe he needs saving, and so he cannot be saved. Strength for him is simply the absence of restraint. Many try to wear this mask, mistaking numbness for power. They think freedom means feeling nothing, that victory means being feared. They imitate the stare, the posture, the ice. But when chaos hits, most men flinch, most beg, most break. Pretending to be a sadist is not the same as surviving as one, because the moment you stop fearing consequences, you become capable of anything. And capable of anything also means capable of destroying everything that made you human. It looks like freedom. It feels like ruin. So which type rules you? Are you the malignant narcissist chasing applause and mistaking it for love? Are you the gaslighter crafting narratives and mistaking them for truth? Are you the sadist testing limits and mistaking harm for strength? Most are ruled by one, influenced by another, and pretending they are none. But the only path to real power is brutal honesty. Admit the shadow, and you don't become weak. You become aware. And awareness is the beginning of mastery, not to erase the dark, but to direct it. How? First, audit your triggers. What makes you frantic for attention, eager to rewrite the story, hungry to punish? Write it, study it, starve it. Second, set hard boundaries on yourself. No grandstanding when you feel unseen. No rewriting when you feel accused. No cruelty when you feel powerless. Third, caught stillness. A mind addicted to applause, control, or pain cannot endure silence. Learn to breathe in a room where no one knows you. Let compliments pass through you. Let doubts sit without needing to be solved in the next 5 minutes. Build anchors, a journal that doesn't lie for you. A friend who won't collude with your delusions. A craft that rewards patience more than performance. Learn language that breaks spells. I may be wrong. I need time to think. That crosses my boundary. Refuse the sugar of flattery and the poison of contempt. Refuse the thrill of winning arguments that cost you your honesty. Practice the old disciplines. Delayed gratification. Precise speech. Voluntary discomfort. Quiet competence. These aren't virtues for saints. They're armor for anyone who plans to keep power without losing themselves. If you master these, the shadows don't vanish, but they kneel. The malignant narcissist in you learns discipline. The gaslighter in you learns integrity. The sadist in you learns restraint. You become someone paradoxical, dangerous yet dependable, cold when needed but never cruel, persuasive without deception, formidable without audience. That is rare in a world of sleeping men chasing attention, narratives, and domination. The man who commands his own darkness is untouchable. Make no mistake, this is not softness. This is sovereignty. It is not about being nice. It's about being in control of yourself when the world tries to pull you by the throat. The man who can refuse applause, refuse manipulation, and refuse cruelty, especially when he craves them, is a man who can be trusted with power. He doesn't need a stage, a script, or a victim. He needs a mission. And the mission is simple. Build what lasts. Build a mind that withstands insult, a character that withstands scrutiny, and a body that withstands pressure. Build a reputation that can survive without your constant defense. Field Guide. Spot the shadow fast. Malignant narcissist tells excessive grooming of image, disproportionate outrage at small slights, chronic name dropping, conversational hijacking, performative generosity that demands public credit, love bombing followed by contempt when you don't respond fast enough, a hunger for titles without the grind that earns them, private tantrums when public praise slows. Watch the tempo of their relationships. Intense entry, dramatic middle, catastrophic exit. Watch the pattern of their apologies. None when they win, weaponized when they lose. And watch what they do when no one important is in the room. Gaslighter tells they often praise your memory, then later tell you that you misremembered. They ask you to share vulnerably, then use that admission to reinterpret your motive. They respond to clear questions with long paragraphs that never quite answer them. They insist on talking when you're exhausted and postpone when you're clear. They describe other people as crazy, often, but never show receipts. Their sentences are filled with qualifiers, always, never. Everyone says, "I just find it interesting that Sadis tells jokes that cut deeper than necessary. Tests disguised as lessons. Praise that arrives only after you crawl. Rules change when you start winning. The reward is withheld to watch you scramble." Their favorite stage is crisis. They schedule important conversations when your defenses are down. They smile at the exact moment most people frown. They collect secrets, not to keep them, but to brand them into you like marks. They withhold clarity because confusion is a leash. And when you finally crawl out, they move the exit. Countermeasures for malignant narcissists give no free mirrors. Praise, if deserved, is precise and private. Criticism, if required, is calm and documented. Never negotiate your boundaries in public. Refuse urgency. Refuse theatrics. Refuse the bait of being their audience. If they threaten to withdraw because you won't applaud, let them. The addiction loses power when it loses supply. For gaslighters, get external anchors. Keep contemporaneous notes. Summarize calls in writing. Ask closed-ended questions and refuse to answer new ones until the last one is resolved. Do not accept vibes. Accusations require specifics. When the story shifts, write the old version and the new version side by side. Do not trade in tone. Trade in timestamps. Do not trade in feelings. Trade in facts first, then discuss feelings after the foundation is set. For sadists, end the game early. Do not match their cruelty. It strengthens them. Do not beg for empathy. They do not recognize the currency. Do not accept tests, counter with terms. Name the behavior without drama. Record the terms and enforce the exit. If you must stay, reduce surface area. Fewer hooks to pull, fewer levers to twist. Build alliances outside their reach and keep your dignity clean. In their world, the only winning move is not to play or to play somewhere else. Scenario: you join a new team. Week 1, the malignant narcissist showers you with praise in meetings, reposts your work, calls you a star. Week 2, he bristles when you don't laugh at his joke. Week 3, he begins telling others you have potential but you're not ready. Week 4, he starts withholding information so you look unprepared. He's teaching you a lesson. Worship me or lose access. You think the solution is to try harder. It's not. The solution is to remove the lever. You thank him for the early support in writing. Publish your process where access games won't work and make your results independent of his mood. Different floor, different trap. The gaslighter invites you to align on the story. You walk in with facts. He compliments your thoroughness, then reframes the scope, moves the goalposts, and ends the meeting by saying, "I'm glad we're finally on the same page." You leave dizzy, wondering whether you missed something obvious. You didn't. He shifted the center of gravity mid-air. Counter. Don't debate in fog. Write the sequence of events. Ask for confirmation on single points and refuse to proceed until each point is resolved. When he tries to widen the frame, narrow the question. Final floor. The sadist runs the high-stakes review. He schedules it at 7 a.m., moves it to a smaller room, and starts late to keep you sweating. When you present, he interrupts, not to clarify but to break rhythm. When you finish, he smiles and assigns you an impossible deadline to see how you perform under pressure. It's not a test, it's a feed. Counter. Refuse false emergencies. Escalate with receipts. Offer 2 realistic options. And if overruled, send a time-stamped summary that records the decision and the risks. When the blow-up comes, you already wrote the history. Personal checks. Mirror test. Would you still chase this goal if no one could see you reach it? If the answer is no, your malignant narcissist is driving. Timeline test. Can you lay out what happened last month in short, verifiable sentences? If the answer spirals into monologues, your inner gaslighter is at the wheel. Mercy test. Do you secretly enjoy watching someone squirm? If the answer is yes, your sadist is hungry. None of these answers make you a monster. They make you a human in need of mastery. Machiavelli wrote about princes who understood that appearances govern human behavior, that the crowd trusts what it sees more than what is. That fear can be more stable than love if love is transactional. He never told you to become hollow. He told you to understand the game. The lesson isn't to turn yourself into a mask. It's to stop being fooled by other people's masks and your own. The prince who survives is the one who knows where performance ends and power begins, in the discipline to act without needing an audience. Training. Practice the humiliation drill. Once a week, do something worthwhile that no one sees. Study without posting. Help without credit. Build a small thing perfectly and keep it private. This starves the malignant narcissist in you. Practice the reality drill. When conflict hits, write the facts in 3 sentences max, then the feelings in 3 sentences max, then the desired outcome in 1 sentence. This undermines the gaslighter in you. Practice the mercy drill. Exercise power with restraint on purpose. If you could crush, don't. If you could embarrass, protect. If you could one-up, remain silent. This chains the sadist in you. Relationships. If you are tied to a malignant narcissist, define what you will give and what you will not, and keep both promises. Reward humility, not grandstanding. If the balance never changes, end it cleanly. If you are tied to a gaslighter, stop debating and start documenting. Replace "you always" with "on Tuesday at 3:14 p.m. you said." If the pattern persists after clarity, you are not in a dialogue. You are in a maze. Leave the maze. If you are tied to a sadist, do not barter with pain. There is nothing to buy. Leadership. A leader is not the absence of shadow, but the master of it. The malignant narcissist's drive becomes service when you anchor it to mission, not mirrors. The gaslighter's pattern recognition becomes wisdom when you bind it to truth, not tactics. The sadist's tolerance for pressure becomes courage when you pair it with mercy. The same energy that corrupts can be converted, but only under pressure and only with accountability. The ruler you should fear most is not the one who admits his flaws. It's the one who pretends he has none. Closing call. You wanted power, now you know its price. You wanted clarity, now you have the map. The 3 shadows will not disappear because you named them, but they will stop ruling you the moment you measure them. So measure them today before the next room, the next deal, the next promise. Ask the hard questions. Write the hard answers. Build the habits that hold when the lights go out and the audience is gone. If you do, you will discover a strange and quiet victory. You don't need to be admired to move. You don't need to gaslight to win. And you don't need to harm to feel strong. You just move. You just win. You just become strong. Case studies. The partner. At first, he texts 50 times a day, promises futures he hasn't earned, and calls your boundaries walls. When you ask for space, he posts a sad story and waits for you to come fix it. That's malignant narcissism. 6 months later, he begins to insist you misheard simple sentences, tells your friends you're emotional, and remembers events in ways that make him the hero and you the problem. That's gaslighting. A year later, when you finally try to leave, he shows up cheerful and tells your sister how proud he is of you while quietly switching your keys. That's sadism. Strategy: safety first, record second, closure last. The boss. He gives you the title before the work because it impresses others. He uses your wins as props and hides your name when big names are in the room. That's malignant narcissism. When targets slide, he reinterprets the plan and calls the original numbers a misunderstanding. That's gaslighting. When you speak up, he smiles and assigns the worst account to build grit. That's sadism. Strategy: document, set terms, escalate, exit, the self. You tell the world your goals daily, but rarely do the boring reps. You love making plans more than living them. That's your inner malignant narcissist. When you fail, you retell the story so you look noble instead of learning. That's your inner gaslighter. When you feel powerless, you mock others getting started. That's your inner sadist. The cure is the same proof of work. Self-quiz. Do I post more energy than I practice? Do I feel secretly heroic for ordinary effort? Do I dread ordinary days because they aren't seen? Do I argue about tone when I'm wrong on facts? Do I move the goalposts mid-con conversation? Do I ask questions to learn or to trap? Do I smile when someone else is rejected? Do I withhold help to watch someone struggle? Do I apologize to end discomfort or to repair damage? Do I keep receipts or do I keep rumors? Can I describe last week's work in numbers, not adjectives? Do I speak differently when no one important is listening? Would I still do this if it took 5 years and no one applauded? If someone recorded our last argument, would I be proud of my words? If the person I love fails, do I move closer or I move the target? Score it honestly. Your shadow is where you avoid numbers and precision. The pledge. Say it clear. I will not let a need for praise define my worth. I will not twist truth to win the moment. I will not harm to feel strong. I will build a spine that holds when the room is silent. I will build a craft that speaks when I do not. I will build a life that needs no audience. Power is not the roar. Power is restraint. That's how men become dangerous.